This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
I welcome all my viewers to episode number 219 on the 10th of June 2020. It will be a tall task for my listeners if I ask them what do the two companies, WWE and the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup, have in common. The way they promote their brand, the way the marketing is done, the way the broadcasters pay a fees through the nose, there is a presumption that these are the only two brands in their respective sports, which means that apart from WWE, not many people know that there also exist other similar companies. Similarly, apart from the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup or IPL in short, we all presume that no other T20 domestic tournament comes close to competing with this respective tournament. But that's not the case. It's the way the WWE management and the Indian Cricket Board management showcase their respective brand, the respective matches, the money spent, the promotions that leads us to this false belief that no other brand exists, or if any other companies or tournaments exist, they are nowhere near to the brand of WWE and the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup or IPL in short. Just as there are other similar T20 domestic tournaments which are conducted by other countries, like the Big Bash League from Australia, the Manzi Super League from South Africa, the Caribbean Premier League from West Indies / the Caribbean. And yet, despite the presence of these tournaments, somehow the Indian version gets the major chunk of the news. Why? Because of all the individuals associated with the Indian version, the commentators, the coaches, the players, the money, the fees, the promotions. The protective nature of the Indian Cricket Board, the contracts meted out to its players. The Indian Cricket Board makes sure that the Indian cricketers, domestic and international, are paid so much in terms of advertisements, money, that they never have to compete against its brand of IPL or the Indian Domestic World Cup, and that they never have to publicly come out and say that they have no money. And then the clauses in the contract which have been put that the Indian players are not allowed to play for other domestic tournaments because of the competition, and also all the attention will shift to these respective competitions. The WWE did a similar thing when it came to WCW and ECW. Those who saw the WWE or the WWF in the mid 90s, those who had an interest and had been seeing it for a long time, must have heard this term Monday Night Wars, which was the competitive spirit between the management of WCW and the management of WWE / WWF, buying the best wrestlers, recruiting the best managers, protecting the brand, making sure one brand through its promotional techniques, marketing techniques could outdo the other one. I won't go much into the details of Monday Night War or the brand supremacy wars between WCW, ECW, and WWE because it requires a different, much longer discussion for the same. But the main reason to tell my viewers about WCW, ECW, and also the other brands that exist was to tell them that WWE is not the only pro wrestling promotion company that exists. There is also this presumption that the current contracted WWE wrestlers only are contracted by WWE and they have never competed for another brand. Well, that is not the case. They have competed for other brands, they have been contracted by other brands, but at one point or the other, WWE was always on their minds. And if you are paid a fees which goes through the roof, why will you not agree to a contract by a certain company? So let me give you some competitors for the WWE in contemporary times. Though calling them competitors would not work because WWE right now is the only wrestling promotional brand which broadcasts its matches thrice a week, three different brands, and also on live television. But what are the names of these competitors? The first one is Impact Wrestling, founded in 2002, and it has its parent company in Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions. As we all know, a few wrestlers were let go by the WWE due to budget cuts. It means that after their non-compete clause is over, they can join another company if they want to continue their journey in the wrestling world. Did you know that for a short while the like of Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, Hulk Hogan, and others who used to be an important part of the wrestling world as far as WCW and WWE is concerned were also contracted out by Impact Wrestling, or what is often called TNA, Total Nonstop Action, before these individuals were once again given the contract by WWE. So, in short, it's not just about one's talent in the wrestling ring, but also about which company pays the most moolah. Another wrestling company which has just been founded over the past 1 year, and a few good wrestlers have moved on from WWE to this very company is the AEW, All Elite Wrestling. The likes of Cody Rhodes not renew the contract, and that is why this feeling comes out that no other brand can compete with the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup. Also, the fact that the Indian Cricket Board is very protective of its players. They pay them fees more than the normal fees paid to players of other countries. And then, when it comes to the T20 Domestic World Cup, they have not allowed the Indian players to compete in other tournaments. Then the way the commentators converse, the way they promote the tournament through their conversations, apart from talking about the match, the players, the environment of the match, you often hear them reiterate that the Indian T20 domestic league is the best in the world. The players in separate interviews, be it the foreign players, the Indian players, or the coaches, they are also subtly told to promote this tournament. The newspapers also subtly promote it. There is a separate page of discussion for this particular tournament, while other tournaments get at best a paragraph in the newspaper and in the other digital media sites. So when all this exercise is done to heavily promote a certain brand, a certain tournament, why will it not be the only tournament embedded in the minds of the fans and the experts alike? It's the similar case with the WWE brand. Those who think that WWE is the only professional wrestling company may have got their research wrong. There are other companies, but in India, apart from WWE, which is broadcast live at least 4 times a week, which includes the special pay per view tournaments that is broadcast once a month, and the three brands in NXT, Raw, SmackDown. If these three brands are broadcast on television and digital networks thrice a week, that is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, according to Indian time, and no other company gets that much of air time, then of course WWE rules the roost. But that is, of course, not the case. Apart from WWE, there exist other similar wrestling companies, brands. In India, we may not know much about them because they have been hardly broadcast here, or at best, the matches have been broadcast in terms of highlights. They are not broadcast live. Therefore, the notion that most of us do not know if there exists other similar wrestling companies. Let's start with WCW, that is World Championship Wrestling. The World Championship Wrestling is a defunct American professional wrestling promotion founded by media tycoon Ted Turner in 1988. For much of its existence, WCW was one of the top professional wrestling promotions in the US and was a significant competitor to the dominant World Wrestling Entertainment. As I said, when we think of pro wrestling, really only one name comes up nowadays, that being WWE or WWF. 2 to 3 decades ago, three companies dominated the pro wrestling arena, that being the WWE, WCW, and ECW. That is where the idea of Monday Night Wars came up, as WWE wanted to compete with WCW and ECW, buy it out, and make sure that these companies never gave a run for money to WWE. Yes, take out your best competitors. Enough of brand supremacy. Let's get to the latest pay-per-view, which will be broadcasted next Monday. The Randy Orton Edge rivalry, which has been constructed right through the Royal Rumble when Edge made an appearance on the WWE ring for the first time in 9 years and did shock the fans and the commentators alike. Their rivalry began when Edge eliminated Randy Orton, and when the next day Orton gave Edge an opportunity to the rated RKO to have a last ride together, it turned out to be a misdirect, as Orton RKO'd Edge in front of a capacity crowd on the Raw after Royal Rumble and then beat him with a chair on the same neck he had sustained an injury which put him out of contention for over 9 years. Then, as always is the case with the way a match is promoted through WWE, its pre-promotions, the advertisements, there was a constant back and forth, and eventually the match was to be decided in a last man standing match at WrestleMania. One thought that could have been the last time you would see these two compete against each other, as Randy Orton now does not compete regularly in the ring, as the more younger, fitter wrestlers are given more opportunities now. But in any sport, there are superstars and there are legends. When you are a part of a company or a certain professional sport for over 2 decades, the word legend automatically becomes a part of the daily discussion for a certain sports star. And this is the case with every sport, be it the likes of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, or the likes of Ronaldo, Messi, and their contemporaries, and other professional athletes in other sports. So, why will not the likes of Edge, who is now in the WWE Hall of Fame, and Randy Orton, who will be given that coveted title no sooner than later, being a part of this profession for over 2 decades, does give them edge over their other younger competitors. So why is this match billed as the greatest wrestling match ever despite having other competitive and qualified athletes in the ring and competing for various championships at the same time? It's all about the emotions associated with the history of these two wrestlers, what has been going on since the events of the Royal Rumble, the last man standing match, their verbal duel, the conversations in and around the media world, the self doubts created in the mind of Edge, the way Randy Orton is using the psychological warfare against his competitor as to who is a better wrestler in the ring in terms of traditional wrestling skills when it comes to grappling and other such skills, and then to attract more viewers, why will we not give such monikers? Why will this not be billed as the greatest wrestling match ever? That's one way to attract viewers. Since viewers cannot come to the physical arena, why not ask them to watch a match through their digital and cable networks? It's the same story with other sports, especially in the world of tennis. The Nadals, the Djokovic, the Federers, the Murrays. There is a halo created around these individuals. So, if for example, and this is a hypothetical example, if Federer, who has reached an age where most sports persons usually retire, if he declares that he is retiring very soon, why will not the organizers arrange one last marquee match for this individual? After all, the organizers are also heavily invested in that player, whether it be the organizers of the French Open, the US Open, or Wimbledon. That is immaterial. Imagine if, for one last hurrah, Leander Pace goes one on one against Roger Federer. Those who don't know who is Leander Pace, he is a Grand Slam Indian tennis champion. In fact, he is a greater player than Nadal. But since we have an affinity for foreign players and we give them so much of importance, the bulk of our conversations, the bulk of the print and electronic media space, if Mahesh Bhupati goes or Leander Pace and Mahesh Bhupati compete in a doubles match against Federer and Nadal, who is most likely to win? Well, will this match ever happen? Forget the fact that there is some kind of uh, pause right now due to conditions which are not in favor of sports events. But in a hypothetical world, if Bhupati and Leander Pace get together for one last time and compete against Federer and Nadal. Most individuals would say that Federer and Nadal are more qualified to win this hypothetical doubles match. But for me, all the four tennis players involved, the four athletes involved are equally competent. Whether this match happens or not is for a later discussion. Let's get back to a match which is most likely to happen, which has been scheduled now between Edge and Randy Orton. Who is more likely to win? If you ask me, I cannot predict. It's difficult to put a finger on either of these wrestlers. I can say that I have not watch Edge compete because when Edge was in his heydays, I was not watching WWE between 99 and 2010, nor was Edge as popular as the likes of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and their contemporaries. So these things do make a difference. And although I have watched Randy Orton compete in the ring, and since I have revived my WWE watch since 2015, it is still difficult for me to say who has a higher percentage of winning. It's difficult to predict, nor should we go in this line of predicting. Though former wrestlers have put their money on a certain wrestler, I will not be going down in that direction and predicting who has a bigger chance of winning. So let's leave it as a mystery as to which wrestler has a greater chance of winning this match, billed as the greatest wrestling match ever. Now, in my previous discussion about this pay per view on the 27th of May, especially those who were listening, there are two World Championship matches that are due to take place. One is the one between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And even in this, going by how WWE stages its matches, are they giving McIntyre a longer run at a WWE Championship? Though for the first time since WrestleMania, he has a competitor in front of him who can match him strength for strength, move for move. It's not David versus Goliath, it's Goliath versus Goliath. So if you ask me who has a bigger chance to win, once again I will refrain from predicting. It's difficult and it would be sensible not to go into this path of predicting unnecessarily. For me, both are equally competent. One got an opportunity after nearly 7 years to win a championship. The other one has also been waiting for nearly a decade to get a chance of getting his first ever WWE World Championship. At this point, anything is possible between McIntyre and Lashley. Let's move on to the other World Championship. It's a Universal Championship, but the stipulation is that it's a 2-in-1 handicap match. And here, the only thing I can say that in a handicap match where it's two wrestlers against one, the odds most of the time favor the wrestlers who have the greater number. As I said, number game is the way to go. So 2 against 1 means Miz and Morrison competing for and trying to win their first ever Universal Championship, rather co-Universal Championship against Braun Strowman. Since it's a 2-in-1 handicap match, there could be a point where there would be no tags. It would be all three wrestlers in the ring, but it would not be a triple threat match. So yes, Braun Strowman has his task cut out. But if you ask me who has the favor of winning, who do I predict to win, once again I will refrain from predicting. Now let's move on to another championship match, a singles championship match. And this is not part of the Backlash pay-per-view. This is part of a regular broadcasted SmackDown pay-per-view. It's for the Intercontinental Championship between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. And remember, neither is defending his title. They are competing for a title which was left vacant by another wrestler. Once again, two equally competitive wrestlers with great moves who are lightweight, so they can move around in a much greater manner than their heavier counterparts. So once again, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, a 50-50 chance. Moving on to the actual match, which will be a part of the WWE Backlash pay-per-view. It will be for the United States Championship between the current United States Championship Apollo Crews versus the former champion Andrade. Third, the number game might just come back to haunt Cruz because Andrade's entourage in Zelina Vega and Angel Garza might put things in favor of Andrade because their interference will surely give the opportunity for Andrade to do something which is illegal in the ring, like a poke in the eye or poke somewhere else without the referee watching. It will be interesting to see how smart the referee is if he decides to ban those two from ringside. That would be also a very important aspect in the match. So Apollo Crews and Andrade for the US Championship. Yes, difficult to predict, but odds in favor of Andrade because of the number game. Once again, it's all about the number game. Then we quickly move on to a singles match. Just like Orton and Edge, this is a singles match, a rivalry which has been brewing for the past couple of months. Things have taken a direction which is unusual for this brand between Jeff Hardy, who returned like Edge after a brief layover, and Sheamus, who like Orton wants the attention on him. Though for most people it would be foolish to compare a Orton Edge match versus the Sheamus Hardy match, but I would go for it. Right now, in the Orton Edge match, though I'm not predicting, but emotions are in favor of Edge. Of all the storylines that are created in his favor, of all the things that have happened since Royal Rumble. Similarly, it is the case with Jeff Hardy, his return, the emotions associated, the documentary created on him just before he returned, the up and down career of Jeff Hardy, the personal problems and other such problems of the wrestler might put match in his favor based purely on emotion. But if it is based purely on wrestling skills, both are equally competent, so don't be surprised as to who wins. I have no idea, nor will I predict. Now let's move on to the women's division. First is the Raw Women's match between Asuka and Nia Jax. Asuka, who in a strange manner won the Raw Women's Championship in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view when the title was vacated by the previous championship, and Nia Jax, who defeated two other competitors to compete against Asuka. Once again, you ask me who has a chance. And once again, I will refrain from giving an outcome because it will take away the sheen of the match. I want to watch the match and not worry about what I predicted or what everyone else has predicted. The number might be in favor of Asuka if her tag team partner Kairi Sane interferes. As I said, number games will play an important role. And another great match for the women's tag team match. It's the combination of the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley and Sasha Banks versus a team of iconics that is Peyton Royce and Billie Kane versus the former champion in Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, who lost the championship to Bailey and Banks. It will be an interesting trend. There are two parts to this. If the championships are retained by the respective champions, that is Asuka, Apollo Crews, Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Bailey and Banks, or if all championships change hand, be it the women's tag team champions, the Raw women's champion, the US championship, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, or the WWE World Universal Championship. There would be only two stories. Either all championships are equally defended or all championships equally change hand. So what will happen in this pay-per-view? At this point, it's difficult to predict, but what I can say is that another great pay-per-view and another 4 hours of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this very special broadcast in which I clarified the false notion that only one brand exists as far as the pro wrestling world is concerned. I will talk more about this in the coming episodes, and as far as the discussion around NXT brand is concerned, that will also be for a separate day. This ends episode number 219 on the 10th of June 2020.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.